What would you think if you were just sitting at your computer one day and all of a sudden the middle of your vision went black? You couldn't see anything. And then there were jagged lines all around that empty space. And then there were psychedelic balls of color going around like a big Ferris wheel around that empty space. What would you think if that happened to you? Today on this program, we're going to have an expert talk about these. What we will find out are headaches. So stay tuned. Here to explain this is Dr. Neda Hindiyeh. She's clinical assistant professor of neurology at Stanford University. Thank you so much for coming, Dr. Hindiyeh.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're really interested. I was talking to some other people, and I am not the only person who's had this experience with these flashing lights, and we just wanted to know what they meant.
Yes, it's actually such a scary experience when it happens for the first time, especially. So I want to talk a little bit more about what migraine is and what migraine aura is. So I think that'll help us define these different types of headaches and also these types of visual symptoms that may or may not come with a headache. So migraine in general is a debilitating neurological disease, and it can occur with or without aura. It's very common in general. Migraine occurs in about 21% of women and 11% of men. And a migraine attack itself can last anywhere from a few hours to several days. The pain can be anywhere. So it can be on one side of the head, both sides of the head, the neck, the face, and it can be behind, both eyes or one eye. It can feel like throbbing, pulsating, tightening, or squeezing, or anything in between. And it often gets worse if you're trying to do routine physical activity, like walking up the stairs or bending down. So the pain's generally moderate to severe and would stop someone from doing what they normally would like to do. Like if they're working, they may have to stop their workday or may not be as productive during their workday. And by definition, people generally get either some nausea with the headaches or some sensitivity to light and sound. Then we have the aura. So migraine with aura includes all the features I just described, but it also has an aura, which occurs in about 30% of people who have migraine. So these are transient focal neurological symptoms that usually precede or sometimes accompany the headache. But in some people, they can have an aura without having a headache at all. And these aura symptoms generally last anywhere from 5 minutes up to an hour. They kind of develop gradually and can either be visual, similar to what you had, sensory, or speech. And I'll talk a little bit about those.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it could affect you in those other ways, sensory or speech.
Yes. But visual aura is actually the most common type of aura. It occurs in over 90% of people who have an aura. And it often presents as what we call a fortification spectrum. So zigzag figure at kind of one point of fixation, and then it can either spread, can go like right to left or, left to right. And then it can have a scintillating edge. And then for some people, it can leave darkness in its wake. So very scary. So it could be bright light, then turning into darkness. And some people, they can just have darkening of their vision that grows. But the good news is that kind of all goes away within a certain period of time. And generally within an hour, it's gone. And so it can be a very scary sensation if it's never happened before. And then some of the sensory disturbances people can have are like numbness or tingling in the face or kind of one side of the body for that kind of same amount of time.
Oh, and they must think they're having a stroke.
Exactly.
I mean, you think one-sided.
Exactly. And then some people can have changes in their speech where they can't find the right word to say, or they're stumbling over their words, or they feel like they can't necessarily understand what other people are saying. So yes, all symptoms that can be very scary because they look like a stroke. But generally the difference is when it comes to an aura, it
Mhm.
comes on a little bit slower, a little bit more gradually over minutes of time. Whereas really with a stroke, it comes on pretty suddenly. And for most people, the aura symptoms are generally followed by the headache pain. But for some people, it's not. And that can be even scarier, right?
It's just so mysterious that,
Exactly.
all of these different variables would happen. And you just think, why?
Yes. So why is a really great question. So why do these occur? So why does aura occur? Why does migraine occur? It's actually quite genetic. 80% of people with migraine and migraine aura have a family member that also has something similar. We think about people with migraine having a brain that's just a little bit more hyper excitable. So sometimes, though, there's no real identifiable reason a migraine came on. It just did. For some people, though, they can often identify certain triggers for their migraine attacks. So I think of these as being partial and additive. So it's often, anything that kind of throws the brain off from its normal routine. So think about something like not sleeping enough or maybe sleeping too much, skipping a meal, being dehydrated, being stressed, not getting enough exercise, or a combination of these things that may kind of set the brain off to be a little bit more hyperexcitable and trigger a migraine attack.
That is so interesting. A lot of things are going through my mind as you're talking because people sit, and of course, about sitting as the new smoking. And I'm just wondering if screen time, being in front of a monitor, if there's any correlation between that and either migraine or other kinds of headaches.
Yes. The short answer is yes. And I'll go into that a little bit more because, excess screen time can certainly be a trigger for headaches, especially kind of these headaches behind the eyes and for migraine. There was a study done in 2015 which found an association between high levels of screen time and migraine in young adults. They actually looked at over 5,000 or about 5,000 participants, and they examined different types of screens. So computers, tablets, smartphones, TV. And they found that those who had the highest were in the highest screen time group, so over 2 hours a day, had an increased likelihood of reporting migraine episodes. And really, it's not uncommon to experience eye strain when you look at a computer for a long time, which we've certainly all experienced in these last couple of years. And there was a review that was done in 2018 that kind of looked at this and looked at what they call computer vision syndrome or digital eye strain syndrome. And this can cause headaches. Generally, these headaches are kind of felt right behind the eyes. It can also cause eye strain, dry eyes, neck and shoulder pain, and tightness in those areas, and blurred vision. And these can often also be associated with like sensitivity to light.
There's a lot of talk about these blue light glasses. And I don't know if they really help or if you have an opinion on them or if that's your area.
You know, it is something to think about. So blue light blocking glasses may help reduce screen headaches, but the research there is really kind of lacking. Um, but I think it doesn't hurt to try,
Mhm.
especially if it's an inexpensive pair, or if there's something that you can get and there's a return policy where you're able to return if it doesn't work. But it is something to think about trying, especially to be able to have a little bit more screen time during the day.
Yes. And, the other thing that's so hard for people to do is to take breaks. Um, just
Yes.
get up and look away, look out the window, give your distance vision a chance to operate. that can be really helpful too, or palming your eyes,
Exactly. So
warm
that the
compresses.
20-20-20 rule.
Yes.
So every
Yeah.
20 minutes, taking a 20-second break to view something that's 20 feet away. I think, I actually tell my patients to set an alarm if they can. And I know sometimes you can't do that, but sometimes you can. And even, we're doing a lot of telehealth now. And for patients who have difficulty looking at the screen for long periods of time, I'll even tell them, okay, well, turn around. I don't need to see your face, or if you need to turn off your video for whatever period of time you need to, because those breaks are very important.
Yes. And I think, I mean, I'm so happy that we're talking about screen time, because I wonder if people realize how taxing it is to be in this fixed position. And,
Yes.
if it does lead to a headache, that's even more reason to follow a consistent break pattern.
Exactly. And now, we're not in our workspaces as much. So, at work, a lot of people can get an ergonomic assessment of their screen and of their chair and be in a proper posture. At home, we don't necessarily have that. And we don't necessarily have those breaks where we need to get up and walk around and move to our next thing. So it's so important to get up, walk, stretch, and be aware of your posture, because that can play a huge role in triggering headaches.
Yes, I think we'll talk about that. We're going to be doing another episode, everybody, on tension headaches and postural related headaches. So stay tuned for that. You're not going to want to miss the tips that you're going to hear. But getting back to these migraine headaches, you mentioned drinking water. Are there dietary considerations, exercise considerations, other lifestyle considerations that one can do to prevent these? And part two of the question is, what do you do when you have one?
Okay, absolutely. Very great question. So, we can do a lot of things in our lifestyle just to help prevent headaches and migraines from happening. So, number one, sleep. Sleep is very, very important, but it's it's sleeping on a routine that's important. And it doesn't matter if you're an early bird or if you're a night owl, but it's just keeping it a routine. So sleeping at the same time every night and waking up at the same time every morning. And actually avoiding naps is important unless you're napping at the same time every day for the same amount of time every day, because we don't want to throw the brain off. The brain is very used to a routine there. And then regular meals. So meals at the same time every day are really, really important. And what's even more important there is getting some protein with every meal. We want to keep our blood sugar levels stable throughout the day, and protein really does help with that. But when it comes to particular diets, I wouldn't say you need to follow anything specific. Everyone's a little bit different. So I think it's actually too stressful to do things like an elimination diet and cut everything out, because, really what's important for you may not be important for somebody else. So just thinking about routine and regularity.
We
And
love hearing this. You sound like an Ayurvedic practitioner.
oh,
Lights out before 10, regular meals at regular times in a
yes,
calm environment.
yes.
I mean, the
And
regularity, I think people don't appreciate that. Take a nap, but at the
yes,
same time
exactly.
every day, get up at the same time, regardless of whether it's the weekend. It's
Yes,
wonderful.
exactly. Our brains thrive on routine. And especially for someone with migraine whose brain is more hyper excitable, we want to make sure we implement that routine. And yes, hydration is very important as well, especially now, it's the summer. We need to be drinking water and plenty of water every day. And then one of my favorite things to help prevent headaches is aerobic exercise every day. So there are studies that show that, 20 to 30 minutes of aerobic exercise, so getting your heart rate up and sweating every day, will help prevent headaches just as much as a daily medicine would. And then there are recent studies that show yoga can also be helpful. So really important to keep yourself and your brain active.
I think that's wonderful advice. And, it also reduces the need for medications, which can have side effects that are deleterious. And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't really like taking medications. And so I think some of the migraine medications can be pretty strong.
Yeah, exactly. And for some people, just during a migraine attack, they're obviously going to prefer being in a dark, quiet room, being away from everyone, doing some deep breathing. Some people like to do some meditation during that time. But and for some people that may be enough, but for others, you may need to take a medication during your attack, and that's totally okay. And whether it's an over-the-counter medication, or if that's not really helping enough, certainly talk to your doctor about getting prescription specific medications for a migraine attack.
Yes, I think that's really sage advice. Everybody's different. People have different needs. And, I probably people sort of get used to their own systems and find out what really works for them.
Exactly.
Is there anything else you want to add about migraine that you think people need to know that we haven't talked about here?
Migraine is very common. And oftentimes people think, well, if I only have these little headaches and I have these severe headaches only sometimes, that's okay. Those are just tension type headaches too. But they all count. A lot of times over time, the more severe migraines may start looking like tension type headaches, and these all may start getting more frequent. So if you notice a pattern like that, or headaches becoming more frequent, definitely talk to your doctor about it, because there are specialists that can help.
And when you're talking to a doctor, would you want to seek out someone who specializes as you do in neurology? Is that the best way to go?
Yes. So I think the first avenue is certainly talking to your primary care doctor, because there are a lot of things that they can help with. And then if they're not able to help, or you need more help, then yes, seeing a neurologist or a headache specialist.
All right. Well, thank you for being our headache specialist here on the channel. We really appreciate your expertise. Fascinating stuff. Who knew about these mysterious migraines that could happen?
There's a lot to learn. Yeah.
There's a lot to learn. And if you have any questions, you can drop them in the comment box below, and maybe we'll be lucky enough to have Dr. Hindiyeh back on the show to talk about them. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.